title given to Ruler and Rocco.
Sultan
35. What do we get the name Jesus?
from the east.
36. What does the name Jesus mean?
Jesus means justice.
37. Did the angel give to the child that was called Jesus a holy name?
Yes, but it cannot be used by those who are slaves to sin.
38. What is an angel?
Angel of the thought of Allah manifested in the human flesh.
39. What are angels used for? 40. What is our prophet to us?
Angel of Allah, who sent to bring us the everlasting gospel of Allah.
41. What is the everlasting gospel?
Savior, power that comes from Allah.
42. What is the covenant of the great God Allah?
Honor thy father and thy mother, that they laid me along on the earth forever, so but that God Allah.
43. At what age did Jesus begin to teach?
12.
44. Where did he teach?
India, Africa, and Europe.
45. How long had he teach? Did he teach? I'm sorry.
18 years.
46. What did Jesus say that would make you free?
Truth.
47. What is truth?
Truth is false.
48. What is alt? 49. Can truth change?
Truth cannot change or pass away.
50. What other name do we give truth?
Holy breath.
51. What have you to say about holy breath?
Holy to say, great is good, it is, it was, and evermore to be.
52. At what place on earth was the physical part of man formed?
In the Garden of Eden,
53. Where's the Garden of Eden?
the land of King City, Mecca.
54. What is the modern name for the Garden of Eden?
Mecca.
55. What is the name of the first physical man?
His name cannot be used only by executives of the rulers of the AC or the MST of A.
56. What are the words AC of the MST of A?
Adam chamber, the more science temple of America, third heaven.
57. Who were Adam and Eve?
There are others, the fathers of the human family, Asiatics and Muslims.
58. Where did they go?
They went to 80,
59. What is the modern name given to the children?
Asiatics.
60. Who was guarding the holy city today, the holy city of Mecca today to keep unbelievers away?
Angels.
61. What is the modern name for those angels?
Asiatics.
62. What is the shade of their skin?
Olive.
63. Are the Moorish American any relation to those angels?
Yes. I have the same father and mother.
64. Give 5 names that are given to the descendants of Adam and Eve.
Lucifer, Satan, devil, dragon, and beast.
65. What is the devil sometimes called?
Lord of self.
66. How many cells are there?
2.
67. Name them.
High self and lower self.
68. What people represent the higher self?
Those who protect the angels who protect the holy city.
68. What people represent the higher self?
Those who protect the holy city.
69. What people represent the lower self?
Those who are cast out of the holy city and don't accept the teachings.
70. What is the higher self?
The higher self is the mother of virtues, the harmonies of life, and brings justice, mercy, love, and right.
71. Can the higher self pass away?
No,
72. Why?
because he's unalive and
73. What does the lower self breed?
hatred, slander, rudeness, murder, theft, and everything that harms.
74. What did the higher self say to the lower self at one time when he met him? 75. What was the answer that the lower self gave to the higher self? 76. Has he finished his task of devouring?
Yes.
77. When was his time declared out?
When he nailed Jesus to the cross.
78. What were the last words Jesus uttered?
It is finished.
79. What did he have reference to?
Yeah, reference to the end of Satan.
80. Did Jesus say he will return to conquer him?
Yes.
81. What is the name of the person into whom Jesus was first reincarnated?
Prophet Muhammad, the conqueror.
82. Was Satan to be bound then?
Satan was to be bound apart
83. When was the head of Satan taken off?
when he nailed Jesus to the cross. Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
84. By whom?
Excuse me. Muhammad.
85. Name some of the marks that were put upon the Moors of the Northwest by the European nations of 1774.
Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian.
86. Negro.
Nickname given to a river that's North Africa because it contains black water.
87. What is meant by the word black?
Black, according to science, means that.
88. What does the word colored mean?
Color means anything that has been painted, stained, varnished, or dyed.
89. What does Ethiopia mean?
Ethiopia means something divided.
90. Can a man be Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian?
No.
91. Why? 92. What title does Satan give himself?
God.
93. Will you define the word white?
White means God. God, ruler of the land.
94. To whom do we refer at times as being the great God?
Allah.
95. Is the devil made in the image and likeness of Allah?
No. Our lower self will pass away.
96. Who made the devil?
Elohim.
97. Who is Elohim?
Elohim, the seven created spirits that created everything that was, is, and ever going to be.
98. What is Elohim sometimes called? 99. How many days are in a circle?
7 days.
100. How many days are in a creation?
7 days.
101. According to science, how many days are in a year?
7 days.
Islam. Gratitude, family. Next, I'll bring up Sheikh Shatik to demonstrate and exercise his 5 senses. Islam.
Islam. Islam, brother. Oh, Islam, family. Islam. Today is the day that we say, praise Allah, right? Today is the day that we recognize our sisters in the temple, Islam. Our mothers in the temple, Islam. Because regardless, they're always our mother, right? Today we recognize that these are prophetic times, Islam. You know, we recognize that because these are the times that were spoken of before, that they're here now. And before I start my lesson, I just want to read this short segment, the Savior of Humanity. It is in this electrified age, men are racing into this life without complete knowledge of where they are going or what the end will be. When riches seem to be their only pursuit to be obtained anyway at any cost. When selfishness, avarice, greed, and lust dominate their very being, when humanity in general is left at the mercy of those who have no mercy in them. This is the time that we're in, unfortunately. So we have to look in deep within ourselves and grab the strength that Allah has endowed us with and follow the teachings of the Prophet, you know, about these situations. It is truly wonderful and astounding to see one come into this mad human drama for the sole purpose of what? Saving humanity. Losing all sight on those things worldly and yielding absolutely to a cause higher than has ever yet been attained. Because the highest that one can give is their own life for like another, correct? Absolutely, to a cause higher than yet has been attained. This picture is the likeness of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who was serving humanity when he was here in the flesh and still serving humanity in spirit. Because he never left. Coming as he does with a message for the nations in somewhat the same manner as did Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, and other prophets of their day. Only the teachings of this prophet's day differ from the ills of the days of the past, and yet the remedy for the ills of today is the same as the remedies for the days past, all turning about the pivot. Love for what? Humanity. Humanity must be lifted from the wholesome. Yes. Okay. Oh, I'm not on screen? Okay. Humanity must be uplifted from the wholesome depths of what? Poverty, spiritual poverty, financial poverty, mental poverty, emotional poverty, misery and suffering, and place on the solid rock of what? Salvation. There are some who claim to do this, but upon investigation, one finds that they have slouched under the wings of their cross to extract from those who come to them means by which they can have the pleasures of this life while they point their flowers to joy after death. Heaven is hell. Heaven and hell is right here on earth. It's a state of consciousness. Why should you have to leave the earth for to go to heaven or like to receive your rewards? While they feed their sheep, they also shear them while eating. At the close of their day, the master will be heard to tell them, "You have your reward, get thee hence." Rare is that you find a real prophet whose mission is the salvation of what? The nations. The land is full of false prophets whose mission is to fleece the people. The time was now and is that there should come into the land a prophet in the likeness of his brothers to redeem them from sin and slavery. Why was the prophet sent here? Absolutely. Truly, this prophet, Noble Drew Ali, is a man bringing with him the message of what? Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Jesus, he does not come from the elect, nor the rich, nor the mighty in worldly power. But all power is given unto him to do good. This power is from who? Allah. Man doesn't have no power. You don't have the power that Allah endows one with. Power is what? But an illusion. It is what? Force that gives the power is what? Strength. It will be his good works that will make men of every nation accept the truth that he brings, because of what your religion is. Truth is one. Islam doesn't discriminate about what your religion is. It is forbidden to do that. But the truth is still truth. It will be through his teachings that the nations of the earth will understand the will of the master. It will be through him that peace on earth and goodwill to all men shall come. It will be through his work that humanity will be brought from the slime of life and placed on the solid rock of salvation. Islam. Now, having read that, do anybody have any thoughts before I, move forward? It looked like I see something that's on Sister Jamila's face. You got something to say, sister? Besides that bright smile of yours? Okay, then. I won't put you on the spot. Islam. Chapter 48. That's why I read that. The end of time and the fulfilling of what? The prophecies. You got the coronavirus now that they don't know where it came from. You know what I'm saying? Because they're being disobedient here on this earth. They're not following the words or the laws of the prophets, the prophet and the prophets, before the prophet and even until today, that these laws are being laid down, that love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must reign throughout the land to all. That the peace of society, depends upon what? Justice. So I bring to you the prophecies from the Holy Quran, Circle 7. The prophet said, the divine instructions. The last prophet of these days, I didn't say the last prophet, period. I said of these days, in these modern days, is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways. He didn't say just the Asiatics, he said men, nations, and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. Now, in the book of Revelations, it tells it. In the book of Daniel, the book of Ezekiel, they all speak about these things. So they all can't be lying. Well, I know in my lifetime, I'm still seeing them come to pass. John the Baptist was the forerunner for Jesus in those days to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed, which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner of Jesus who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah. His name is Marcus Messiah Garvey, or Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam. And his name is what? Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of who? Men. They didn't say man yet. Let's see. See, folks don't understand when they use men and man. They think they are one and the same, but that's another lesson for another time. That every nation shall and must worship under their own what? Vine and fig tree, and return to what? Their own, and be one with their Father God Allah. Because as man unfolds, what? His God unfolds. And what man sees God today, tomorrow is not. To the next. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered organization and it's a lawfully chartered organization, period. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc. That the world may hear and know the truth, that among the descendants of Africa, there is still much wisdom to be learned. And in these days, for the redemption of the sons of men, under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What did the prophet say, men? You could use these lessons to what? Put your house in order. And to what? Teach your children to what? Love instead of hate. I was just watching on the news the other day about 20 young men jumped a 15-year-old teenage girl in Brooklyn, stomped her out, took her phone and her sneakers off her feet. Now you think that these aren't those times? It is sad, the condition of our people. We, as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations. However, of Europe, however, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind. Now, this takes me to religious controversy, right? It says all other religions, what? Hang upon it. Speaking of Islam. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. We are the Moorish Americans and returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah is to what? Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah has given thee. Come all ye Asiatics of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights. Because you are not Negroes, learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to what? Love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the family of nations, and we honor all true and divine prophets. Now, behind that, I know someone has some thoughts on their minds or something to add behind a lesson like that. As my eyes roam the floor. So no participants. All right. Islam on Flango.
First I rise and I give all praises to Allah. I give honors to Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to Marcus Garvey, honors to the Grand Sheikh, honors to the Sheikh Isnika, honors to Sheikh Shatik.
It's Islam, brother. Honors to you.
All the sheikhs and all the honors to all the sheikhisses and then everything pertaining to Islam. Islam. I want to add to that that the Prophet was showing us that to me in that chapter 47 end of time
48
48 end of time fulfilling the prophecy. To me, he's saying that it's the end of a certain period, like or some certain things that was going on. So he's saying that this is the end of times and the fulfilling of the prophecies, and because he's a prophet, he's showing us certain things that we didn't know. Like Marcus Garvey, we didn't know that he was the harbinger, and he's letting them know, like, this is the harbinger, just as John was the harbinger for Jesus at that time. Mm-hmm. So he's giving the Asiatics, and not only the Asiatics, but all nations that this is a prophecy that was prophesied for, or that's why Noble Drew Ali was ordained to be who he is, and also that we measure time by cycle ages.
Islam.
So now this is the age of Emmanuel, and that it's the age of the soul. So it's our reasoning, our willing, and our thinking and understanding that we must perfect in order to, be able to teach these lessons.
Islam, brother, it is also a pinnacle of wisdom that we are endowed, that we should be endowed with, to recognize what is going on in these days and times, to recognize what is happening with us in these days and times, to be more aware of how we speak to one another, how we treat one another, to be more aware that we should really, really lock down now and really open our eyes to see. You know what I'm saying? You have eyes to see, but you can't see. You have ears to hear, but you can't hear. At least you should be concerned about your own sins. You should be able to recognize that you should recognize ought from naught. You should recognize that naught is just the opposite of ought, to telling you to what? Do ought and not naught. You know what I'm saying? So like I ain't gonna keep you long. I just wanted to just get that off my chest about today's happenings. Yes, Islam.
So you demonstrated that brought me right back to the divine warning.
Islam.
Because it's kind of one and the same. But where it goes hand in hand is that the prophet says, so there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down and lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous
Islam. That's what I'm waiting to hear.
But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people and this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and the great sin must be removed from this land to save it from enormous earthquakes, disasters, diseases, etc.
Enormous earthquakes, disasters, diseases. Look at Nashville. Tornado came, tore up the whole entire city. See what I'm saying? The prophet said, "What? Get your people out of the South, because this is where they're going to get hit at the hardest." And it also says it written like in the Bible, the same thing about famines, disease, earthquakes, storms in diverse places. These are diverse places where you didn't normally get stuff like this. They've been getting more floods now than ever. Taking on, he said that the European is going to do what in his oral statements? Take on water. This is what's happening. This is not a hoax. This is not no hocus pocus nonsense or no man-made nothing. Man don't have no control over this. Allah's angry with her children down here, with his children. His, her, hers, him, same, one and the same. Angry with his children down here on earth. Male and female, children alike. It's no respect of persons. Is it not a scene of delusion or a series of misadventures? A pursuit of evils leaked on all sides together? In the beginning, it is ignorance. Pain is what? Is in its middle, and its end is what? Sorrow. As man unfolds, what? His God unfolds. Man's God today, tomorrow is not. We should recognize what we're doing and how we're doing it. And recognize the times, the age that we are. You had your hand up, brother?
Yeah.
Okay. No. It's okay.
Excuse me. First, I rise giving praises to the great architect of the universe,
Islam.
Father Allah. Honors to the noble and true divine prophet, noble Drew Ali. Honors to our true and divine prophet. Honors to the temple number 10, Asbury territory. Honors to the grand sheik of the temple and the peakers. Honors to all sheiks of the temple. Honors to our brothers and sisters in attendance. Honors to everything pertaining to Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Honors to the sister Infinity. Today is her solar return.
Islam. It's Islam. Congratulations, sister. Congratulations. May you continue to be infinite, sister. Islam.
So, in the fulfillment of the prophecies, the prophet basically saying, in the end of times, every man gonna have to worship under his own vine and fig tree.
Islam.
So the prophet was basically giving this divine plea out to all the people because in this 2020, they have a census coming up.
Islam.
And this is the first census where they're actually stressing national origin.
Islam.
And
Islam.
like the prophet spoke about every man supposed to profess their own.
Islam.
That without a free national name, you're not known or recognized by any
Absolutely.
government of the world.
Absolutely.
So every man gonna have to claim their national descent name.
Absolutely.
So the prophet knew that was going to be a fulfillment of the prophecies because he seen it was going on then, and it's probably going to continue for a good while.
Yes.
So now we up into that time. That's why it says at the time fulfillment of prophecy. And
Islam.
the prophet was letting it be known that when all these things are carried out, love, truth, peace, freedom, justice on the land, then we could be united. But if these things don't get carried out, justice will serve, and the worst is yet to come.
That's right.
And we've seen all these disasters because our people love the black labels
and Islam,
and all these different labels that we attach to ourselves that makes us non-descendable and makes us outside of bound from being in tune with Allah. Because Allah only made living man.
That's right.
So we know that man was created by the Creator, and that every nation has to have a national descent name. Allah separates the families from me.
Islam.
Let us say peace and
No, peace, brother. That was wonderfully said. That's where I was going to next. You know, we still want to be black people, Negro, what they're celebrating Black History Month. That is a disgrace. I mean, listen, no offense to the accomplishments that were made by our Asiatics that labeled black. I'm not speaking about that. I'm talking about just to say you're going to give us a month of recognition is a disgrace when we taught the whole entire world. Why don't you teach that? But they're not going to teach that. Because, see, if they teach that, then they have to unfold all of the other lies that they've been telling. But it's our own people's practices, like you said, about still being black, African American, Negro, all of it's lumped in the same, and then acting like you can stand on that proudly is a disgrace. Because what? before I step off this floor. A good death is what? Better than an evil life. Strive, therefore, to live as long as thou oughtest, not as long as thou canst. While thy life is to others worth more than thy death, it is thy duty to preserve it. Islam. And with that, I'm going to say peace. I'm going to bring up now at this time, man, the Grand Sheikh, Lord Nature El Bey, if he is prepared at this time. Well, then, if not, I'm going to bring back up Brother Omari, and I'm going to step aside. I say, Islam, thank you. And
Islam. Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Islam.
Peace, fam. Is better? All right. I'm going to demonstrate after that. Beautiful demonstration by Sheikh Shatik. I'm going to ask everyone to go to chapter 43 and keep vibrating on the same level. Holy instruction from the Prophet. The insufficiency of knowledge. Because this is also going to tie into why, or not why, but some of the reasons on why people continue to refer to themselves as Negro, Black, and Colored. Because there are people walking around in the land of Allah still do not know who they are. It's the insufficiency or the lack of knowledge. If there is anything lovely, if there is anything desirable, if there is anything within the reach of man that is worthy of praise, is it not knowledge? And yet, who is that attaineth it? The statesman proclaimeth that he hath it. The ruler of the people claimeth the praise of it, but findeth the subject that he possesseth it. Meaning the same thing as today. The government is the expression of the will of the people, but today the government is running off their own merit and creating and enforcing rules amongst their own chambers. But the true government is the will or expression of the people. So it's the true subject who possesses it. But we believe that the government and these people we voted for obtained the power, which they do not. They are to carry out our will.
That's right.
Islam.
That's right.
That's right. Republic.
That's it. We make decisions and
We
choices
voted them
together.
in to carry out our will.
Islam. Evil is not a requisite to man. So that already throws the concept of man being born into sin. Islam. How could I be born into sin if I was manifested through the attributes of Allah?
Islam.
So evil is not a requisite to man, meaning evil is not a necessity in one's life. Neither can vice be necessary to be tolerated. Yet how many evils are permitted by the connivances of the laws? How many crimes committed by the decree of the council? Right, some of these politicians, again, they won't let me put Moorish American on my documents, but they'll accept Black. As the oath that they take to be vowed by the Constitution is already illegal. That's already a crime. Islam, Chief.
Islam might be real quick. No, they will allow you. You can write it in, but they won't put it in.
Indeed.
They'll put in Black and everything else, right, because they swore the blood oath to never let you know who you are. So they're not going to put Moorish American. You have to know it to put it there yourself.
That's still in fact a crime.
Yes,
still a crime.
Yes, but that was my point.
Brother Nawiel.
To add on to what the brother, the Sheikh just said, Shatik, they won't put it, but they would see that you put it and acknowledge it, but they won't put it because it doesn't go with their system. And not only that, they won't accept a Lodio nationality card, but they would ask you for identification.
Islam. And what's the difference? But even like we said, I demonstrated last Sunday, if Trump is coming out now with the nationality card, now all citizens must have a nationality card, not just the Moors, right? So the Prophet been preparing us a long time ago of the future of these coming cycle ages. But again, they'll still accept the Black on paperwork if we know that this is all supposed to be nationals. But be wise, O ruler, and learn, O thou that are to command the nations. One crime authorized by thee is worse than the escape of 10 from punishment. When the people are numerous, when thy sons increase about thy table, sendest thou them not out to slay the innocent and to fall before the sword of him whom they have not offended. So as time goes forth and we start to unfold and man learns who we are, that's why the prophets say love instead of hate. Because now when we get back on top and all this is overstood of where we at and who we are, we're still not to act rash against the European. We're still supposed to treat them just. If the objects of thy desire demanding the lives of 1,000, sayest thou not, I would. Surely thou forgottest that he has who created thee, also created these, and that their blood is as rich as thine. Meaning that we may not be all the same of the same nation, but we are all of the same creator, Islam. That's why Allah say, not crush not the meanest worm. Islam. Sayest thou that justice cannot be executed without wrong? Surely thy own words condemn thee. Thou who flattereth with false hopes and criminal that he may confess his guilt, art not thou unto him a criminal? Or art thou guiltless because he cannot punish it? When thou commandest to the torture him who is but suspected of ill, darest thou to remember that thou mayest rack the innocent? Is thy purpose answered by the event? Is thy soul satisfied with his confession? Pain will force him to say what is not, as easy as what is, and anguish hath caused innocence to accuse herself. That thou mayest not kill him without cause, thou dost worse than kill him. Thou mayst prove if he may be guilty, thou destroyeth him innocent. O blindness to all truth, O insufficient of the wisdom of the wise. Know when thy judge shall bid the account for this, thou shalt wish 10,000 guilty to have gone free, rather than one innocent to stand forth against thee.
As it is.
Islam sheep.
As it is in today's society.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to speak out against anything. You know, they want to hold you as, you know, you're a troublemaker, or you are you're anti this, you're anti-government.
Mm-hmm.
When you are the government speaking out, but there's so many people accepting the wrong over the right that like when those who speak out against the wrong, they're condemned. Mm-hmm. So this is exactly what this here passage is speaking about. But also, but speak out against it Islam. Anyway.
Islam. And the reference of the insufficiency of knowledge is because if a Moor stands up and say, no, we're not black, we are Moorish American. And now his own brother and sister may look at him and say, what is he talking about? But it's not because they don't want to be on the same page as me. They just have a lack of knowledge, insufficiency of knowledge.
Islam, but I'm speaking about now.
Oh yeah, Islam.
No, not about the common people. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking about those that sit up on high and looking down and they're controlling things. You know,
those the puppeteers, right? Because they know that what I'm saying is right and exact.
Islam.
But
so
they need
got to give out
Islam.
Anyway.
Islam.
Yeah. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
14. As the owl is blinded by the radiance of the sun, so shall the brightness of her constituents dazzle thy and approaches. If thou wouldest mount unto her throne, first bow thyself at her footstool. If thou wouldest arrive at the knowledge of her, first inform thyself of thy own ignorance. More worth is she than pearls, therefore seek her carefully. The emerald and the sapphire and the ruby are dirt beneath her feet, therefore pursue her manfully. The way to her is labor. Attention is the pilot that must conduct thee into her port. So that's the science of having knowledge, to understand the knowledge.
That's right.
Is seek it carefully. Mm-hmm. The way to her is labor, meaning it's a constant fight or a constant path of unfolding.
That's right. Constant work.
It's unfolding, peeling back layers and layers to get down to this truth. Islam.
Absolutely.
Brother Nawi, you had a question?
Yeah, you just said it.
Okay.
Down to this truth.
Islam. Islam. And that could also be a way of peeling layers back from the physical self into man in the spirit form
To the highest.
to the highest of the high. Because this is, like I said, the body, as I demonstrated a while ago, the body is nothing but a car that I navigate.
That's all. Man, know thyself.
Islam. And that's a knowledge that we must unfold. Because now if we didn't know that, anything else wouldn't make sense to us.
But a vessel.
Islam. Naturally, the man desire the truth. Yet, when it is before him, he will not apprehend it. And if it force itself upon him, he is not offended at it. Wow.
It should be.
Wow. The fault is not in truth, for that is amiable. But the weakness of man beareth not its splendor. Wouldst thou see thine insufficiency more plainly? View at thy devotions. To what end was religion instituted, but to teach these thine infirmities, to remind thee of thy weakness, to show thee that from heaven alone art thou to hope for good? Doth it not remind thee that thou art dust? Doth it not tell thee that thou art ashes? And behold, repentance is not a frailty? So these are all things to stay grounded within the realm of knowledge and being sufficient in knowledge to also remember our basics of self. Don't get too big headed with the knowledge, because just as much as knowledge you've gained, Allah can take us right back to our basic points of understanding of who we really are. And know that we're nothing without Allah. Doth it not remind thee, 23, when thou givest an oath, when thou swearest, thou wilt not deceive. Behold, it separate shame upon thy face.
Spread it.
Swearest.
Spread it. Spread it.
No, when thou swearest, thou wilt not deceive. Behold, it spreadeth shame upon thy face. Gratitude, I didn't catch that.
No.
And upon the face of him that receiveth it.
Same thing.
Learn to be just, and repentance may be forgotten. Learn to be honest, and oaths are unnecessary. So when thou swearest, thou wilt not deceive. Behold, it spreadeth shame upon thy face. Meaning that one is in the heart. One is guilty when you know that you should have went right instead of left. I know how I feel in my heart. If I know that I'm a Moor and I convince my brother he's Negro, black, or colored, I got convinced him, and I walk away with nothing but shame and guilt in my heart because I know better than that. Islam. The shorter follies are, the better. Say not therefore to thyself, I will not play the fool by halves. He hath heard his own faults with patience, shall reprove another way of boldness. He that giveth a deny with reason shall suffer a repulse with moderation. If thou art suspected, answer with freedom. Whom should suspicion affright except the guilty? Islam. So what they say, and back in the modern layman's term would be, why would you worry if you didn't do anything wrong? Islam. The tender of heart is turned from his purpose by supplications. The proud is rendered more obstinate by entreaty. The sense of thy insufficiency, Islam, Sheikh.
Islam, more. I want to know, what does that word mean?
Obstinate
Entreaty.
or entreaty.
I mean, I have a idea of Grand Sheik, entreaty.
Entreaty.
ENTREATY. Yeah, because I hear that word sometimes, and I, have to question. I have a general idea.
Right, but we want it from the
I don't
record.
want the general idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather know exact meaning. If you don't mind, Grand Sheik, I'd like to know from that standpoint and from a law standpoint. From both issues. Entreaty.
You have a time? Brother Flango has it.
It's a noun. It says an earnest or humble plea.
Islam.
Islam.
Pretty much the same thing. It can also mean to petition or to entertain.
Interesting.
To beseech, to petition, or pray with urgency.
The entreaty.
Islam.
It's Islam. I'm
Yeah, more
satisfied.
definitely. That's it.
I mean, it does give some more to prevail on by prayer,
Like that.
to treat in any manner, to use or manage, to deal with, to manifest to others,
Yes. Yeah. That's good.
any particular deportment, good or ill.
So if it's saying that the proud is rendered more abstinent by entreaty, what is it saying?
The
Just
tender
what
of
you
heart
said.
is turned from his purpose by supplications. The proud is rendered more by obstinate by entreaty, by being more humble-hearted, more. I would say in my and to give it to the layman's term is like more down to earth in a sense, but more open, more being more revealed, more comprehensive, more humbling,
Yes.
There's a
humbling
sense to
oneself.
manifest to others.
Like,
Yes.
so being more open to others, for others, and others,
By us.
by us.
The unity of life.
Indeed, indeed. Islam Sheikh.
See, like you said, the abstinent to first yourself to recognize your own imperfections and to be humble, so that you can secure another brother or sister that is in need of that same knowledge in which you have. So yeah, so I'll say all of the above. Islam, and I'm satisfied.
Also goes back to the demonstration of in order to give the light, one must have the light. Islam for the flying.
I see saying the tender of heart is turned from his purpose by supplications. So it's saying to me, it's saying like if you have a weakness, so being like you're tender of heart, you're loving and everything, people take advantage of you. So now it's being it's saying supplication. By supplications, like other things, like someone is coming towards you and giving you harmful thoughts or something like that, and now you have to come out of your comfort zone where you was at as a loving person to feel down because you don't want to hate this person in that way, and the proud is rendered by more obstinate by entreaty. So the proud is they're they basically gratifying themselves and saying like I accomplished my mission by getting this person to come out of their character.
Well, that's one side, but I would say look at it from multiple ways, because knowledge is 360. So also one would be like a lower self perspective is that I know that this person, we're not on the same vibratory rate. So I know more than likely your words will harm me or take me outside of my character, right?
Yeah.
Now that's part of the insufficiency of knowledge. So now that you know this, so the purpose by supplication, the proud is rendered more by obstinate by entreaty. So the fact that I already know your mission, I should already had that's having the knowledge. I should already have put myself in a position to where I could maneuver around you with not having to step outside of my higher self to deal with you on that level.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
You can pre-see what this person's intentions are. So if I know that and I let you upset me anyway, then where was the knowledge?
Right.
Islam.
Islam.
The sense of thine efficiency commandeth thee to hear, but to be just, thou must hear without thy passions. So sometimes you got to put yourself in that front driver's seat and know, all right, I know what this person is about. So now you must prepare. You must set yourself up in order to deal with this person, but to be successful.
Islam, like in the chapter of the duty of the wife,
Mm-hmm.
when it say the nature whispered into her ear, nature whispers into her ear the I'm paraphrasing, but the meaning like of his looks, like when he's looking at the woman, with if he's looking at her with good intentions or bad intentions.
And that's also dealing with insight and intuition. That's no additional two senses of insight and intuition. It's like I said, by you knowing the makeup of a person or a person's energy, you should already have the knowledge on how to, like I said, maneuver around them and how to not let their bad and negative energies and vibrations affect you, or it's bringing you down to their level, but you remain on your high and you just manifest ways on how to deal with that person while you remain on your high and still be just. Son, you drop your book sheet.
Yeah. That's it.
You ready to come up? Okay. That's all. That concludes my demonstration, nobles. Next, I call up the Grand Sheik of the Temple, Lord Nature El Bey, Islam.
Bien.
Allah
Islam.
Islam.
All praise is due to the Almighty. Giving honors to our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Giving honors to all active, loyal American true citizens. Giving honors to the nation. And specifically, giving honors to our women. Islam.
Islam.
Islam. So I'm going to go in the direction of the purpose of our organization. Before I get into that, just so that we're clear, what is the organization of the nation? That's the question. Yes. Fine. Go.
Find the national movement.
No. Islam. Now we are.
More Science Temple of America.
Yes. Islam. So those are not our words. That is the words of the Prophet. The Moore Science Temple of America is the organization of the nation. Very important that I'm asking that question because where I'm about to go leads up to that, helps us understand that, and helps us identify with that legally and lawfully. Remember, we talk about the characters of the Helios, and one of the characters being John. John represents purity. Purity is not necessarily just being clean, but purity also represents clear conception. So what us relating that to modern day and to us, John represents the purity degree, which represents being clear, pure in thought, pure in heart. Islam and how that relates to a Moorish American, John was told that you must have a clear conception of the work that you're called to do. So this is the purpose of Noble Drew Ali manifested in the flesh, is to give us, mainly not just Moors in the temple, but giving the Asiatics of North America, plural, a clear conception of who they are and what they're called to do. But before we can be called to do something, we must be clear who we are. That's where the identity comes in at. And this is what he made reference to with his beacon call when he says, "Come all ye Asiatics of North America and come hear the truth about your nationality and your birthright. That you're not Negroes, colorfuls, black people, or Ethiopians. So we're going to get into the term now, nationality, the term national, and the term nation. Again, not saying that we don't know this already, but it's about having a clear conception. Knowing is one thing, but we need to have a clear conception of whatever it is that we're talking about, that we're stating, that we're participating with. So if I say I'm a member of the Moorish Science Temple, or even if I just say I'm a member of the Moorish American nation, I need to have a clear conception of what that represents, especially because of the days and times that we're dealing with, because of the opposition that you spoke about earlier, because of all of these interferences and setbacks. We need to have a clear conception. Amen. Because everybody else is saying, like you said, what's that about? So they doubt us from the door. So because there's already doubt in the minds of the citizens, you got to have a clear conception. Islam. So it's unusual when you look up the word nationality. And we spoke about this last week. Nationality is a term of growing up unconscious. Nationality is just a term that we wasn't directly familiar with. And if we was familiar with it, we didn't really have a clear conception, right? So our definition of that is still based off what people just threw out there or what they just said it meant. But it didn't register to us on what it really meant, because it was deliberately defined in the way where we didn't think it was relevant to us. And even when you go into American literature, so to speak, the way it's defined and worded is still there with less substance, still to throw you off, where it's less relevant. So what I ran across, which I had for a long time, but it's a World Book Dictionary. So remember, I said define, definition, right? So within that, we have several definitions, several dictionaries that we make reference to, that we cross-examine, that we have in our library. And we always draw for the Black's Law and different things that we seem relevant to the situation. Well, now, when you go into those literatures, it's hard to still get the clear conception of what is really meant by the word, because it's deliberately written in a way to distract you from its true meaning. Most of us know that just dealing with etymology, right? But now this World Book Dictionary is a little bit different, because now it's unbiased towards your mental state, because it has to meet a more general definition, and it's not specifically written for people in America. You understand the difference? No. Right. So it really makes sense to get literature and dictionaries from an outside source than our own, which is common sense. We know that, but we just have to, resuggest this, because sometimes we just lose focus on what we're doing, especially if we're dealing with legal cases and affidavits and things where you're making a reference to a point that you're trying to prove from an organic perspective. But if you're using their stuff, it's kind of hard to explain your interpretation of it when theirs is still going to be slightly different. So I just want to go into where Drew Ali was really headed with this. So quickly, I went through the word nationality, because when it says World Book, world deals with international. So The first word I went to was nationality because I knew it had to give me something different, being that it was a world dictionary. So within nationality, I'm going to read everything here just to be clear. Nationality, it says a nation, period. Now we know that. Other dictionaries will give you that because it's the root word of the word nationality.
Right.
So nationality only really means nation, and that's it. However, we're going to go into the interpretation of it, is where it really makes a difference, because people call different things a nation. And if it's not understood what nation really means, then you'll just settle for calling that a nation when it's really not a nation. It just becomes more of a figure of speech or a name or a phrase. And then people, according to law, don't challenge it because it's widely used or accepted to be that. So it says several nationalities are represented in the ancestry of most Americans. So that's the first thing it gave. Now, again, you got to stop and question, what are they talking about and why are they saying America? This is a world book. So it's not written for just Americans. So why is it giving reference to Americans? And why does it says in America, people in their ancestries are making reference to several different nationalities? Why does it say that? Well, it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that America is the only place on the planet where the ancestry is mixed to the point where several nationalities could be rooted in someone's ancestry.
Absolutely.
This is why they again refer to it as the great melting pot.
Islam.
This is why the Constitution is even written in the language and manner that is in, because it has to be fair and be accommodating to the multiple nationalities that's here. So that also becomes something to question, because they get away with not using the term nationality in America. So are they saying the reason why they don't use it is because it becomes confusing because of the multiple different nationalities or the ancestries being mixed? I don't think so. It's not that it's confusing, it's that it's deliberately done that way because there's another agenda. And also, if someone's status or citizenship or so-called race was to be black or white, according to them, they're saying Americans have several different nationalities in their ancestry. So the Americans that you got classified as white or black, you are admitting that they do have nationalities in their ancestry. So just like you were speaking earlier about so-called black history, why does the several nationalities never come up in one's Black History time or in Black History Month or in any type of history lesson? Why doesn't the several nationalities come about? Why is it never a question? It's not.
Because people think it's not important.
Oh, absolutely. Our people think it's not important. But the people who hold the information back, they got another agenda, which we refer to that as denationalization. And the prophet said the nationality was taken away from the Moors
That's right.
in 1774.
That's right.
So if the nationality was taken away, that means that you once had it prior to 1774.
Islam.
Clear conception, right? Which represents taking away one's nationality is referred to legally as denationalization. And it's a process.
Yes, yes,
It's not just a suggestion. It's a process. And we're going to get into the processes with this because within this, what I'm going to read today is going to expose that, even for themselves. Number 2, condition of belonging to a nation. The word condition in law is status. One's condition is one's status.
Absolutely.
So if it says the condition of belonging to a nation, what they're really saying is the status of one belonging to the nation. Everyone's citizenship / membership is based off status. Islam. And it says citizens of the same country have the same nationality. Really? But when we deal with the word, we got to examine. It says citizens of the same country have the same nationality. And that's true in most of the world.
Islam.
And again, that's why the first definition used Americans as a reference, because in America, that's not the case. But you go to any other nation state, i.e. country,
Yeah.
every citizen of that country or nation shares the same nationality.
Islam.
And we spoke about this last week.
Islam.
They don't have race on the application.
No.
They don't have ethnic group on the application.
Absolutely.
And then on the same application, they ask, what's your citizenship? As like it's different statuses. But if they were to put that on another nation's application, nobody would fill it out because it wouldn't make sense to them. Because they're not familiar with the terminology that's even being asked.
That's right. Man,
So let's identify the word country. And I will ask for participation on this. I need someone to look up country. If you want to use your cell phone, it's fine, but we need a lawful definition as well. But this is important to identify citizenship and nationality. Remember, Drew Ali said, come hear the truth about your nationality. So we got to dissect this to the point where we got a clear conception on what is the agenda here. Not just saying, I got a nationality. That's not doing anything. That's not effective by just knowing you have a nationality. That's not effective by just declaring your nationality. That's not good enough. Clear conception. Islam, Brother Mornell.
Yes, I rise and give praises to Allah. I honors to Noble Ali. Honors to Banshee, Sheikh Ezekiel, Sheikh Shati, and all the members and everything that pertains to Islam. Definition that I have for country from Bing.com. A country is a region that is identified as a distinct entity in political geography. A country may be an independent sovereign state or part of a larger state as a non-sovereign or formerly sovereign political division. A physical territory with a government or a geographic region associated with sets of previously independent or differently associated people with distinct political characteristics.
Islam.
Islam.
Everyone hear that? Islam.
He didn't finish the last sentence on that. Bro. What was the last sentence?
The last sentence was differently associated people with distinct political characteristics.
That's the last sentence?
Yes, that's all Bing,
Oh.
not Google.
All right.
The last sentence said it is not inherently sovereign.
It's not inherently sovereign.
Yep.
Islam.
Islam.
Sister Farasha, she was next.
A nation with its own government occupying a particular territory.
A nation with its own government, occupying the same territory,
His own territory.
its own territory.
A particular territory.
All right.
Particular.
All right. Islam. All right. So let's capture all of these definitions mentally. Well, everything we're hearing gears towards a nation. Islam. Who was next? Fine, go.
Well,
Islam.
Did you have something else?
the second one says districts and small settlements outside large town cities or the capital.
And that's important too. Thank you for that. Settlements. All right. A settlement. Do we know what a settlement is? Very important. Don't no, just be honest.
No,
If you had, what was you about to say, Fine Girl? What was you about to say?
I'd rather have a definition.
But I'm asking, what was your thought?
On my thought,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
Like, where someone travel from or settle in a certain particular area or region.
Yes, that's important. That's why I said get it out, because we're gonna come back to it. Fine. Now we are.
I was thinking about like somebody colonizing a territory and
Absolutely.
establishing a government.
Yes. Yes. Anybody have anything different? Yeah, what you got?
Country, the portion of Earth's surface occupied by an independent nation or people or the inhabitants of such territory. In its primary meaning, country signifies place, and in a larger sense, the territory or dominions occupied by a community, or even waste or unpeopled sections or regions of the earth. But its metaphorical meaning is no less definite and well understood, and in common parlance, in historical and geographical writings and diplomacy, legislation, treaties, and international codes, the word is employed to denote the population, the nation, the state, or government having possessions of and dominions over a territory.
Islam. Territory comes up again. So highlight that as well. All right. Was there anything else? Anybody have anything different or anything else they want to add to it? All right. Islam, Omar, can you give us the word settlement, please? Thank you, sir. Yes, you can give it to me.
Islam. It says it's a noun, an official agreement intended to resolve a dispute or conflict.
Okay, that's pertaining to lawful consideration
And that's
in the
number
court system.
Number two, it says a place, typically one that has hitherto been uninhabited, where people establish a community.
So, all right, that's where I was getting at. Shikas, did you have something different? Islam. So when you're dealing with the term settlement, and it can be from two different ways where someone can acquire land through settlement. And the coloners, like Brother Nawiel just spoke about, when this territory or land was colonized, the colonists are pertaining to the colonizers, right? Which comes from the word colony, which colonies are states, but they're foreign states of the England territory. All right. So the terminology came over with the coloners, which means the citizens from those lands, those colonies, came and settled over here and conquered and colonized the land. And they also denationalized the property that was here, and the people became the property, is where the nationality came in at. I'll show you this. So that's where settlement comes. So when they make a reference to a country being a settlement, the land itself is not really the settlement. The country, the term country, is the term that was also coined by the colonists. That's right. Where they changed the name of the land and called it a country.
Wow.
So country is not organic.
No.
The word country is not organic when you're dealing with nation state.
No, it's not.
Wow.
It's not.
From an international perspective, there wasn't countries. If you go into chapter 47, and it'll speak about that. And tells you from the line genealogy or the land genealogy from the Moorish Empire on up to the modern day, it tells you they went from empires to kingdoms.
That's right, and new kingdoms.
And then modern day, after the colonists took over, then now we know it as what we call a country. But that's modern terminology. Yes, sir.
Rashid, I think that if you could expound a little bit on this topic dealing with the birthright of the Moors here in the North America. Mm-hmm. We know that North America is comprised of a few countries, and there was questions being proposed that I would like if you could clear up that if somebody is born here in America, even though they have a distinguished country, which is not organic, mm-hmm. would they still be considered Moorish American, or would they consider Moorish whatever that country is?
Well, that's a good question.
Like Moorish Canadian, Moorish Mexican, Moorish Brazilian, Moorish Jamaican.
Because of what's known and recognized, then we make reference to country as well, knowing it's not organic. So just to meet the uniform international codes, you have to make reference to the modern day nation states. So that's why Drew Ali termed the nationality Moorish American to meet the modern day code. Even though Moorish American, that phrase is not ancient, because the word American is not ancient. However, it's being used now just to signal the modern day international family. So because we became part and parcel of the United States of America, which is the modern day government, to become part and parcel of that, we have to acknowledge the name of it. You can't be part and parcel to something or even be a party to it if you're outside the name. So that's why it's important that Moorish American had to be the modern day term used, because we had this conversation on the phone one night, conference call, right? So although we're descendants of the ancient Moroccans, if that was the name of our modern day nation, then we would be outside of the constitutional fold of the United States of America. We would have no constitutional body of power if we were referring to ourselves as an ancient term, which had no connection with the modern day term. And some Moors don't get that because they understand that that's modern, and what they do is they disclaim it because they're thinking to themselves, well, why would we claim something modern when we're ancient? And that's where they're missing
That's
the
misconception.
process. That we have to acknowledge the modern day usage of nationality in order to be on equal footings with with specifically this particular nation here because of what occurred. We're under Reconstruction. Thank you. We're under Reconstruction, so the names are not going to be 100% accurate according to ancient concept. But in order to reconstruct and repair and repatriate, we have to come up under the normal, or not the normal, but the modern day terminology.
Even though it's not organic.
Absolutely, even though it's not organic.
So if someone is here domiciled within the United States of America jurisdiction, they the only ones that's considered to be North American.
Say that again.
If people or nations are domiciling here and they proclaim their nationality here within the United States of America jurisdiction, which is the 50 states within that bounds, are they the only one considered to be North American domiciling here? Or if a Mexican or a Canadian or someone domiciling within those jurisdictions proclaim their nationality, would they still be considered Moorish American, or would they have to be in that jurisdiction?
I don't quite understand your question. If a Mexican want to declare his nationality on this soil,
Yeah.
you're asking would he be considered Moorish American?
Yeah.
No. He'd be considered Mexican. And do you know why? Islam.
Sound like what you're saying, Judge. Since we were denationalized, we came into the more scientific of America to proclaim our nationality once again. So, my understanding of what the prophet brought was for us to come here to regain something that we lost.
Come here meaning the temple?
More scientific of America. In order for us
To regain
our nationality, something that we lost or stripped from us. So by doing so, that's how we can take on that title of Moorish American. Anything outside of that, you wouldn't be able to be considered, even technically, you wouldn't be considered a Moorish American unless you came to the Moorish Temple of America. And that's what the prophet had brought. Well, for my the prophet brought to us.
Islam. So I'm gonna bring a little bit more clarity.
Yes. I'm just going to add this, and then real quickly, this is why the prophet said we are the descendants of the ancient Moabites. You know, in this Moorish American thing under the modern name, he did intertwine the ancient. He mentioned that because this is before America, but now this is a new era of time now, and we must link ourselves back with nations. So we had to come up under that in order to correct it, yet we are the only ancients. Now, in reference to what's being said, the Egyptians, who were the Hammatites, who are the Hammatites, and of a direct descendant of Mizraim, the Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese, Chinese, the Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, Moabites, of the land of Canaan, the Asiatic nations of North, South, Central America, the Moorish Americans and Mexicans of North America, Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans in South America, Colombians, Nicaraguans
Islam. You don't have to read the whole thing.
are all Muslims.
Islam. Thank you. And that's where I was headed, which is chapter 45 of the Holy Quran. And specifically the point number 5. The Asiatic nations of North, South, and Central America. And I'm going to add the adjoining islands, right? but specifically North, South, and Central America. Those is what you call the Americas, which we're familiar with that. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans specifically, I added the word specifically myself, of North America, which means that he's showing you, according to the definition we just read, which I'm not finished on nationality, but it tells you the people who occupy the same land, or i.e. territory, share the same nationality. So the Mexicans, all right, also share the same land of Americas. However, it's a lot of confusion within that, but it's the same occupying of the land.
That's right.
And this is why there's so much discrepancy over the wall being built, is because of that. And America is a subdivision of a Mexim.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A Mexim is also Mexico,
Absolutely.
which people have never made, well, people have made the connection, but most people don't make that connection. But the term Mexico is Mex.
Mex.
When you say Olmec, you're still talking about Mex.
That's right.
Mexican is also Mex.
That's right.
So when you're listening to the term, when you're looking at the language, the Latin, Old Latin pronunciation of America is a Mexim. And it's just another retranslation of the same word. So Mexico and America is one and the same.
That's right.
Prior to the colonization of the lands.
That's right.
See, it's different countries now
That's right.
because of political agenda.
Right.
But it has not always been like that.
No.
So in organic land or geography speaking, to put a wall or even just to subdivide it and call it two countries is something modern.
That's right. Totally.
And again, that's not just me saying it. Drew Ali is telling you right here in chapter 45.
Absolutely.
The Moorish Americans and the Mexicans of where? North America. And Mexico, according to modern day geography, is not North America.
Islam, I just wanted to add that when you look to say which continent it's on, Mexico, it does say it's in North America. But like you said,
Said modern day,
geographically.
Right, modern day. That's right.
They don't
He's
consider
right.
it.
They don't consider it.
No, they don't. We know this. They don't.
But that did tell that.
It's not. So there's is close kindred, and there's a very fine line when you talk about the term Mexican and Moor, or Moorish, or Moorish American. So we don't want to get into the declassifications ourselves and play the Mexican and Moorish American game. And a lot of our Asiatics do that, where they dislike Mexicans and say that they need to go home. And that's wrong in concept.
Yes, it is.
When you know the truth about your nationality, you'll know the truth about everybody else's nationality. Our job is not just to save ourselves, but to save humanity. We're to clear up citizenship issues on all levels. Clearing up one automatically clears up all others at the same time. And that's how we got to teach, where, again, the Moorish Science temples or any Moorish organization should be flooded with Mexicans.
Islam.
if Moors was really on the same page on what needs to be done. When you talk about Native Americans, this is the game that's played. Native Americans are just amalgamated Moors and Mexicans.
That's all. That's all.
When you talk about Olmecs and Aztecs, what do you think you're talking about? That's just amalgamation of the two people, really, which are the same people. But we wouldn't refer to ourselves as Mexicans directly because we're, again, accepting the deconstruction. Not saying we should refer to ourselves as Mexicans, but according to the language, we are. Because we can also say that we're descendants of a Mexams. But how would you say a Mexam plural? See how you would have to play with the language to try to figure out what would be the proper name or the proper use of it. But it's all the same people. So they refer to as, or what they refer to now as Indians, as being Native American. But Indian was not the national name of those people. And Indian also makes reference to amalgamation of people. That's not a true descent of people.
Right.
So if you want to trace Indian back to its root, it'll bring you back to Moor. If you trace Mexican back to its root, it will be Moor. If you trace Olmec back to its roots, it will be Moor. Moor is the bloodline. Moor is the organic, melanated people.
Absolutely. Aboriginal and indigenous.
And the name goes back further than that. Just, you know, we just explain what it goes further back to, but just more in more organic years than what we're speaking about now before the deconstruction. Yes, sir.
So I'm going to just add on to what you were saying. By you even doing the CDC search and you type in the word more, nothing but the tribes and nations of the so-called Indians will pop up under that term more. So I just
What is the DCC?
CDC,
CDC.
the Center of Disease and Control.
All right.
CDC.
I thought so.
Islam. Thank you for that. Islam. So I have a lot more to define in this world book.
The reason for that is because Indians are classified as more as a race.
Mm-hmm.
That's a race. More. It's like what you just said.
Even though we know race is the fiction.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So according to true nationality and true land identity, for Drew Ali being the statesman that he is, to put Moorish American and Mexican in the same bracket and say of North America, he's saying that they occupy the same territory, the same land. And according to international definition of nationality, is people who occupy the same land. So technically, Mexican and Moorish American should share the same nationality to be uniform on what the family of nations recognize the word nationality to be.
Could that include the Canadians too, though? Even though he never mentioned them.
It could, it should, because that's also North America. And again, those are political subdivisions that were made according to colonization. In fact, Canada makes reference to the United States of America's Constitution as their supreme law of the land. So that should show you right there the allegiance that they have, that's their constitution. Islam.
The young brother, he got shot on the border with Mexico, and they used the American Constitution to defend him. Like 2 years ago.
I'm not familiar with that story.
No, it was what you referred to as a native of Mexico, but he was trying to cross the borders and he was shot.
I remember that.
And they used the American Constitution on his behalf.
The so-called Mexican used the American Constitution with that?
Yeah.
And it's proper. It's a proper argument. Islam.
All right.
So I'm going to read the whole definition and we can dissect it. I'm still under nationality for those who just came in. So it says, strictly speaking, nationality is determined by legal residence, the condition of being an independent nation. And this is where your antenna should come on here. But not just that. It says the condition of being an independent nation, right? The word nationality. And just to give us clarity on that, nations that are encumbered, conquered, specifically the United States of America, right? On even how it got that term was due to colonization. That's how it lost its original nationality. The land was not always referred to as United States of America or America, period. So this is why the history of the United States is important to understand this point. But when a nation colonizes another nation, sometimes they might keep that name of that nation, or sometimes they would change the whole name. So it's an option according to the colonization itself and the status that that nation might hold. They could be completely conquered, and usually they're going and change all the names. That's what happened with us. So the last stronghold of the Moorish or Moroccan Empire on this side was totally conquered. So the flag being brought down in 1774 represented the nation coming to a complete halt. So when the colonists had full authority to rule, then they changed the name of the land, the name of the tribes, the territories, and the name of the people themselves. So that shows a complete overhaul of colonization. Where sometimes when they colonize land and territories, they keep some of the organic names and concepts there. But the nationality is one thing that they change. Because nationality also makes reference to bringing up under government control. So when they change the nationality, they're saying that this brand or this is no longer identified under this name. Why? Because the ownership is changed now. The land is under new ownership. It's like someone take over another company. They buy them out or whatever. They go bankrupt. Somebody else sees it and takes it over. Now, whatever assets and property that they have now become under another company, corporation, government, etc. or person control. That's also referred to as nationalization. So what was making reference to what went down here in America is not just the people, but the people became property, also called assets, along with the land is property, and whatever belongs to the land or attached to the land structure perspective and the names of it all came under the control of the colonists. So they nationalized America, is what that represents. So the English nationalized America, the land, which the people and the resources go with it. And what they did was change all of the names that was in Americas or in Morocco to English terminology. That's why your streets, your states are also referred or come under English terminology or the English language terminology.
Islam, that's right, man.
Because they're named after them, their language and themselves. So that's nationalization. So we don't apply that when we talk about government. We talk nationality and we just mainly concerned about what it means to us. But we got to also know what has been done with that term. So now, while we don't have a nationality, is because we've been colonized. And we don't, once we were colonized as property, the property don't get its own nationality. If you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
You're not entitled to a nationality if you're conquered and you're under another government's control. You go under their name. Would you say, Sheikis? Yes.
Absolutely.
So this is why race was substituted for nationality, because it represents stock, like we dealt with last week. But nationality makes reference to independent freedom, like the term just said. So a nationality should make reference that that nation is independent and free from colonization. Not always the case, but that's international law. So by you saying that you have a nationality, from going from the Negro, black, and colored status to saying I got a nationality is a sign or code that you are now free, lawfully and legally speaking. That's the process. Back to, I'm going to explain what Brother Mornell was making reference to earlier. Nationality is a process. It's not just a recognized identity just by itself. It's a process. Like denationalization is a process. I can't just go outside and say, I own your car. It's a process to ownership. Same thing with nationality. If I'm going to identify under a nation, there's a process that has to be done to be recognized as a true and correct transition, so to speak. But let's get more into this. So I want you to listen to this closely. Still in the word nationality. It says, after the American Revolutionary War, the colonies attained nationality.
Wow. Yes.
Yes. It says, after the American Revolutionary War, the colonies gained nationality. See, that's what that whole Declaration of Independence was all about. They were so-called declaring themselves independent from Britain. So wars had to take place to sever the ties. So the colonies wasn't necessarily themselves free and independent until after the war. then they're claiming that they gained nationality after they was free and independent from Britain. But United States, what they declared wasn't necessarily a true and fact nationality either. But that's just what they put in here as recognition. But the process is the code, what I'm trying to show you here. It's the process to it. How did you become free and independent? How did you gain nationality? And that's the question that we're getting a lot, but we never understood it from the process perspective. Where someone is questioning you, could be a colonist, modern day colonist, could be law enforcement, could be court, questioning you on, well, how did you gain nationality? How did you change your name? How did you get Ella Bay? They're saying how. Listen to what I'm saying right now. But now listen to what people have been asking you the whole time. How did you get that? How did that happen? Where did that take place? Listen to the questions. Listen to the argument. Understand the process now on what you're being questioned on. How did you become free? You ask someone else that, a colonel, how did he become free? And he'll tell you. That's what July 4th represents. And they show it every year on, they're celebrating their independence. They're saying, this is how we became free. This is how we gained nationality. And this is how we're citizens of this land. This is how we're American. And they're proud to be it. And they're saying they fought for that freedom. So now let's go back to us. How did these Moorish Americans become free? They're looking at you like, I know what it takes for people to become free as an independent nation. But how did you go from Negro, black, and colored to now you saying you're a free man, you're independent, you this, you that? But you listen to what they're trying to decipher. Where to them, they don't know the process. They don't know about Drew Ali. The books don't reflect none of this. What war took place? What are you talking about? How did you go from that to this? Did I miss something? I'm being an advocate now. I'm putting myself in what they're asking us the whole time. And we're answering questions that's unrelated to their mindset on how did we become free. So we're talking about things like Emancipation Proclamation, and we're making reference to legal things that took place, which are relevant, but in their mind, they're still not relating that with nationality. From a world opinion, it doesn't register with nationality. From somebody domestic here that know about the overthrow, they might be relating to your argument a little bit more, but someone on a world level might be looking at this like these people out to lunch. Like, what are you talking about? And this is why it's so important to know the history behind this, because you don't never know the questions that you might be asked. Yes, sir.
The statement that Prophet made, the Prophet Jordan made about us being saved, I don't think that's going to be told in words.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that relates to this, do you think?
No, that's more metaphysical. That's more internally about you rising up, raising your own kundalini, and raising your godhood. That's from that perspective. We're talking about from a civic perspective right now. We're just talking about citizenship right now, just from knowing and recognize. Yes.
What I was going to say is that's why the prophet made it clear that if you don't do nothing else but proclaim your nationality,
mm-hmm.
because he realized that's what the Europeans had to do in the colonies to declare their independence. They had to proclaim it with the Declaration of Independence. And not only that,
They have to do more than that.
Yeah, they went to war. But not only that, they have their celebration of independence on 4th of July, and we have ours on July 20th. And Prophet established the moral science temple in America in 1928.
I'll go with that. It's a little off.
Is it all?
I know where you're going with
It's
it.
close.
Islam.
Just add on to this, when you're talking about colonization, and you brought up the term country, how we have it defined. What I was doing was researching the relationship between country and county,
Mm-hmm.
and how county correlates with country.
Mm-hmm.
And then we think about the colonization that took place.
All right.
And by us proclaiming on the county level, I want to read the definition of county.
All right.
A country is a geographical region of a country used for administrative or other purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So on an administrative level, this is what we did. We told them our nationality because that's the administrative route on how to document things, especially dealing with the modern terms of the word country or county. So I just wanted to add on to that.
Yes. And also to add on to what you're saying, county predates the state and the country. So that is the administrative direct government. It's the county level. And that's what Drew Ali makes reference to when he says local government. Or the government in which you live. So that's your direct administrative level is the county. County is the law. It's always been that way.
So it makes sense why he filed in Cook County.
And not just, you're right, but not just him, but other statesmen and law-abiding people also dealt all the administrative work in the county. Later in later years is when the states formed and the states superseded the county in administrative work. But prior to the states being established or founded, incorporated, the counties had superseded. The county superseded the state.
It's not things because this is what was needed, and bringing that up, even though we had prior discussions on nationality, this gave me a deeper understanding of how important it is and to know how important the nationality is and also the denationalization of us as a people.
Yes.
What it really did to us and why it's so important that we need to proclaim that once again.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam. So I'm going to continue. So that's it for nationality. The next term is nationalization. Due to time, I'm going to start speeding through this a little bit. The act of nationalizing control of industry rather than outright nationalization is the key to new policy statement on public ownership by Labor Party's national executives. The state of being nationalized is the term nationalization. To nationalize means to bring industries, land, railroads, etc., under the control of ownership of a nation, usually making the government responsible for their operation. So now let's go for Islam, Chikas. Islam. Islam.
And so that makes complete sense because
when flesh and blood beings are
Mhm.
they get a title, right?
Mhm.
Called a birth certificate.
Mhm.
And then when cars are manufactured, they also get a title, which the government or the not say government, but the departments
Mhm.
take ownership of
Mhm.
that VIN number, which is the same, which carries with the car regardless of transfer,
Mhm.
stays with the car.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to add that to that because that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Islam. So the whole concept of this, we use the term nationalize to indicate making something national or making something a part of the nation, which does have significance to what we're doing. But we need to understand what what is that really doing? And this goes back to Brother Mornell's question, is when anything natural person, blood, living being, or property is being nationalized, what is being done is being brought under the protection of a nation. It's like giving the nation power of attorney to speak on behalf of that person, commodity, etc. Which is very important when we talk nationality, is because that's what we're saying is we're protected by a nation and we have national representation. So we're saying that we're not me. It's not just me. I'm saying that I'm under the protection of a government. I'll give you an example. The Sundry Free More Act of 1790. When the three Moroccan national brothers were tried in South Carolina by local officials, local court, they petitioned the court to try them as subjects of Morocco and not under the Negro Act. So we got to understand that case and why you make reference to that case. But you read the case, and that's what is explaining that they were saying that they were subjects of Morocco, or not even Morocco, the Emperor of Morocco, which he has a broader jurisdiction than just the kingdom. Go back to the 101s. What is our ruler in Morocco? Islam. So what you're saying, and some people say, well, I'm free, I'm sovereign, I'm not under anybody rule, I'm not a subject. And you got to understand, this is civic terminology we're using. Subject don't mean you're a slave. So we got to, get outside of what we've been told. There's a way to use things, there's a way to make reference to the thing. Just like citizen don't mean you're a slave. Some people say, well, I'm not a citizen. You got to understand what you're saying and when to use certain arguments. But they said, what they're saying is, I'm under the protection and the government of the Emperor of Morocco. I'm under that protection. I'm a subject of the Emperor of Morocco. I am a subject of the Moroccan Empire, is what the Sundry Free Moors were saying.
Exactly.
So that means that because of that, you have to follow the international process of law to prosecute me. You cannot try me as a Negro. Why? Because Negro will indicate that I'm your property. Which then if I am your property, i.e. slave, now you can try me under the Negro Act, which was the Christian Black Codes.
Right.
But by me saying that I'm property of the Emperor of Morocco, and he didn't say property, but I'm just using that term. By saying I'm property, I'm a citizen, I'm a subject, whatever you want to use, regardless of how it might be viewed, that means that I'm not under your ownership and regulation, which means that now you have to follow the international law for nationality. What Moors say is Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141. Truth A1. That's where that process comes in at. So that's the difference between being tried as Negro, Black, and Colored, or putting your status on the record, i.e., which is nationality, on the record, makes a legal difference between being property and being treated as a national. That's why active Moors do that. But that's what nationality does for you. That's why Drew Ali brought us into national and international body of power. It's so that we would not be not just termed Negro, Black, and Colored, but we wouldn't be treated as Negro, Black, and Colored. And some people still don't make that distinction between, it's one thing not to be called Negro, Black, and Colored, but to be treated and regulated as such is what you really don't want. That's where the damage comes in. Somebody can call you whatever they want. There's no damage in that. But when they try you and treat you as such, that's where the damage comes in at. So it's bigger than you saying, "Oh, I got a nationality card," or "I got a nationality." It's bigger than that. If you can't prove it, if you can't prove your connection to the nationality, if you can't prove that you're under the protection of Moorish American, now you got a problem. And that's where it's going to be geared to in the future. When they really figure this thing out, they're going to be going into every individual person on a case-by-case basis and having you prove your allegiance. It's bigger than you just saying, "Well, I'm tied to this because I got this affidavit and I got this that I downloaded." That doesn't bring you under government protection. The government is the Moorish nation, American nation. The organization of that government is the Moorish Science Temple of America. Drew Ali said it, he wrote it, that's what's in your constitution. That's your protection. If you're not tied to that constitution, then you have no governmental protection as Moorish American. That's the real difference between saying you're Moor or you're Moorish American and having a constitutional allegiance to it. That's where the divine constitution and bylaws come in at, to show your allegiance. If you're not tied to that, then you can have a legal problem down the road. So, next brings me to a term called nation state. And the definition is a country whose citizens consider themselves of a single nationality because of common descent. So you hear me make reference to that term nation state a lot. Because the international family uses that term, the nation state. So that gives you more of an organic definition when you talk about nationality. And I'm gonna repeat it. A country whose citizens consider themselves of a single nationality because of common descent, language, and history, etc. So let's define that. You have something you want to say?
Yeah, well, basically, to continue to add on, every time I look at the term descent, it's basically where we derive it from,
Mm-hmm.
or where it's derived from.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at our descent names is cultures and customs, where we derive that authority or where it comes from would be our ancient mothers and forefathers.
i.e.,
i.e.
every nation must bear a decent name and flag of their forefathers. That's Drew Ali's words. Right? Every nation, i.e., every nation state, i.e., every country, supposed to be. So the United States of America is not consistent with international law because of that. And it's no secret, it's just secret to those who are asleep. And this is why Drew Ali said here again in March 1st, 1929, we read it last week, I'm going to read it in part again. I know all true American citizens are identified by national descent names. To answer and apply to the free national constitution of this free national republic of the United States of America. That's why I'm calling on true national citizens to help me morally and financially in the great work I am doing to help what? This national government. He didn't say to help the Moors. He didn't say to help the Moorish Americans or the Moorish Science Temple. He said to help this national government because he's trying to repair the United States of America because it's ours. So he's charging both parties saying they outside and we outside. We both got to get inside together. This free national republic is not being animated, it's not being administered correctly, is what he's saying, by neither party. And this is what he said in the divine warning. If the above statements is not carried out by my citizens, by my people and the citizens, the worst is yet to come. This is what he's talking about, the great sin. For without a free national name, which is nationality, without a descent flag of your forefathers, there's not a national divine title of the government in which we live. He's talking about the nation state. He's saying that your government, the name of your government is not consistent with your descent. In every other nation state, the name of the nation is the name of the descent. The name of the nationality is the name of the government. The name of the government is also the name of the constitution of that government. That's the identity. So the name of the people, the name of the land, and the name of the law is supposed to be one and the same. It can't be like that in America because of the colonization. The ones that's controlling the government are not the decent. The Moors are. So that name was taken away. The nation state was taken away. And the name was replaced, the decent people was replaced with Negro, black, and colored, which are the natives. It's real clear. And it was a brilliant plan. But the idea is just, we have to reverse the steps. But we have to know the steps, like you said earlier. You must have the light to reveal the light. That's the light. This is the great light of Islam right here. Yes, sir.
Touch on one thing about this divine warning that the prophet used. He kept mentioning national. Every time he mentioned national, he was referring to the government. And the difference between a national government or free national republic and a federal republic.
All right. Let me finish this definition. I think we pretty much summed that up already, but I'll try to bring some clarity to that. So I just want to repeat that last paragraph. He said, there's not a national divine title. The title is the name of the government in which we live. So what he's saying to us is the name of your government is not accurate. It's not divine. Listen to what he's saying here. It's a code. And we read it all the time because it's a code. And it's not just a code to us, it's a code to everyone. The nation, like you said. This is a code to the nation. And every time you repeat this and they hear it, it reminds them of what they did. And it agitates their karma when you read this. This is why I read it all the time. It says, for without a free national name, without a decent flag of your forefathers, there's not a national divine title of the government in which we live. So when you call on the name of your government, if your decent name is not being uttered, then you're going against the divinity of your forefathers and your creator. Just like the scriptures say, you don't honor your mothers and your fathers, your days will be long, your days won't be long upon the earth in which you live, right? It's the same concept. It's just take the spiritual charge out of that. You got to keep it in there, but meaning don't look at it just from a spiritual perspective of dealing with your religion. It's the same thing in government. If you don't follow the divine order within government, because government and divine order should be linked together. And if you don't follow the civic perspective of the divine order, then you're still not honoring your mothers and your fathers. Because you're not calling on your mothers and fathers because the decent name was taken away. We're calling ourselves United States of America. There's no decent name in that title. When the Mexicans call themselves Mexicans, they're giving honor to their forefathers. Every nation, when they call on their free national name, they're giving honor to their foreparents. But when it comes to America, we're not giving honor to our foreparents within the name of our identity. So we're not saying we came down from these people. I mean, we are because we're claiming it now, but just by keep going along referring to ourselves as U.S. citizens, there's no divinity within that proclamation. This is what Drew Ali was talking about in the Divine Warning. The great God of the universe is not pleased with the actions of my people and the citizens. Why? Because they keep dishonoring their mothers and fathers, making claims and straying away after gods of Europe whom they know nothing of. And that's what we're doing day by day, just in terminology. Just by saying, I'm a citizen of this. You're saying, I belong to this. Where's your divinity? Where's your allegiance at to your mothers and your fathers? See, it's a lot deeper than what we thought. We're cursing ourselves and the land. Absolutely, which is us, because we are who our forefathers are. But we're cursing, we're literally cursing the universe by making claims to allegiance that is improper and illegal. And they deliberately did that to bring us off sync, off frequency with the planet and our ancestral frequency. Ancestral connection, absolutely, same thing.
Yeah.
So just by claiming to be something that we're not is cursing us and is reiterating the karma that's associated with it. And again, that's why Drew Ali says that if this is not cleared up, the worst is yet to come. Disease, famine, everything that's going on, natural, what they call natural disasters, which is natural and is natural law. And law governs all events. So it is a natural disaster. But it's natural because we make it natural.
That's right.
We make it a reality through our mental state,
That's right.
which we curse it and we cause it.
That's right. Absolutely.
And we sitting here keep blaming other people for what's going on in the land. Talking about this man made this and this, what's that other word, harp. We blame everybody else for what's occurring and don't know our own powers. And we think that we're exempt from the damage that's being done to the universe. And we sit here and think that we entitled to something, and we're the ones causing most of the damage. Islam, brother.
First, I rise, give praise to Allah, honor to Noble Drew Ali, to the Grand Sheikhs, and all that is pertaining to Islam. I just wanted to say that because of us not taking and honoring our forefathers and mothers, ourselves and the universe, and this was deliberately done, it puts us in a state of wondering throughout the entire lifespan, throughout the universe. We're wondering. It's like we don't know where to turn, what to do. And so wherever we bounce, that's where we are. And so many of us are so divided. And we're divided in the land from each other. And it's all because we are dishonoring our parents. We are dishonoring the universe and Allah. And when we finally take back our nationality, and when we finally accept the fact that we're not Negro, Black, and colored, we then begin to find our place. And as we study and go along, then we begin to stop wondering and start zeroing in on exactly what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to live. I just wanted to add that to it.
Islam. Thank you for that. Islam was. One more thing I'm gonna hit you with before we end. I'm still under the definition of nation state. Everybody still with me?
Islam.
So it says, this is a quote now. This is not the definition itself, but it's a quote inside the definition. They give me an example. It says, in a world of nation states, peace in the long run will not be possible in the absence of enforceable world law. And that was a quote by Harrison Brown. And this is the last part of the definition. This is a quote again. It says, the Arab world is really a lot of little worlds, hyphen, nation states, comma, kingdoms and sheikdoms. That's another quote within the definition of nation state. And I'm going to repeat that, and then I want to interpret it. The Arab world is really a lot of little worlds, nation states, kingdoms, and sheikdoms. Sheikdoms, or sheikdoms. We pronounce it sheik, but it's sheikh. Shechemites. So out of one came many. We got to understand what that's saying, even though the Arab world is a little convoluted, but the Arab world is the Moorish world.
That's right.
That's the Moroccan Empire that it's making reference to. They refer to the ancient Moroccans as the modern day Arabs. So when they say the Arab world, what they're really talking about is the Moroccan world. And again, this is a world dictionary, world book, not no literature that we fabricated. Native person. No, I'm not going to native person. I'm going to native. Just the term native. A person born in a certain place or country. The natives are the people living in a place and not visitors or foreigners. 2, one of the original inhabitants of a place, as contrasted with conquerors, settlers, etc., especially a member of a less civilized race. Did you hear that?
Yes.
Again, this you're not going to really get it like this in a domestic reference period of any literature. Islam. But that last part, I want you to focus on. It says, especially a member of a less civilized race.
Islam. No,
But the colonization period is unethical,
it's uncivilized.
uncivilized, and is really illegal.
Yeah.
So, and this is sort of like what Brother Elijah Muhammad used to talk about, how, and even Drew, there's a couple people who talked about this, but because of the colonization, things is off balance. Just like even President Trump just iterated something similar in his speech. And he said that the climate is different, and it will go back to the same, paraphrasing because it's been a couple of weeks now, so kind of forgot exactly how he said it, but he was saying pretty much things are different because the European is here. And he said when they leave, maybe to go back to where it was, which is the same prophecy that Noble Drew Ali said.
Yeah. That's right.
But it's an imbalance by colonization still being present.
Islam. Practice.
So by divine order, everything will return back to its own one day. That's in the makings. It's bigger than us, period.
Yeah.
Our job is to harmonize and be in sync with divine order, so when that occurs, we will be entitled to the birthright.
That's right.
But sometimes our heads get too big and we think that we're causing certain things to go down, you know, and it's bigger than us. It's a divine movement. That means it's bigger than you.
Absolutely.
It's bigger than me. It's bigger than the temple itself. It's a divine and national movement. You either get with it or you get caught by it. Islam. So number 3, this definition of native. You have something you want to say more? Islam. I'm gonna have to repeat that because this last part is a part of that last definition. Listen up, and I don't want us. I just want us to listen to it. I really don't want to comment on it. Stay in harmony with our laws. But you can read in between the lines. It says a member of a less civilized race, usually not white, now often used in an unfriendly way. Did you hear that? Islam. So I'm gonna pretty much leave that alone. We can continue this.
It's a good topic. I would love it if you would continue this next Sunday. Good topic.
Islam, any questions on anything that was said today that maybe not be clear to someone? Everybody good? So hopefully we all got something out of that. You know, like I said, I was just wanted to exercise clearness, clarity, clear conception. So I hope we got a better, clear conception of nationality itself and our ties to it. So that was the whole purpose of that and the whole purpose of the organization. So, and online, I hope it was clear. The Sister Jamila, she's still around? Can you ask her what? Oh, sorry. Sheik, is you good? No questions or statements before we close? Shatik, you good?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. That question that you asked, we get into that on the next meeting if you mind. So. Sister Mo, any announcements?
If you would like to pay your dues, can you please pay your dues before the meeting or after the meeting? Either before the meeting or after the meeting.
Islam. Also harmonizing with the planet and the universe. We coming up on the new year, astrological new year. And it's coming very soon, and I hope that we have those plans, or someone's been working on them, so that we can make the announcement on what is the plan. But the equinox is coming, it's rushing in. So we want to be in harmony, observation with it. I know she's been fasting all week. Give honor to her. Just, I hope you're doing things in your own observation of the equinox, even if we don't physically do them together. Sister Jamila, was any questions online that I need to know about? Islam. Islam more. So that'll wrap up today's meeting. Islam. Thank everybody for their stillness and participation. And we're not going to read the laws at this time, but we're going to ask all Moorish Americans rise and observe the prayer. Sheikh Nika, you mind closing out prayer?
Islam.
May Allah, by our hearts and minds, back to our ancient forefathers, divine freedom principles, this we ask, in the holy name, suddenly, Amen. Islam Moore's meeting is now closed. Great meeting.
Hey, I mean, I can hold on to it for now.
Here, brother.
Nah, I'm not
Hello, quick announcement. Quick.
Fill out a library card.
No. I wanted to shoot a video real quick. No, I like it.